This is Board Games Insider, the home of Stephen Buonocore, the arch gaming nemesis of Tom Vasel.
This is Board Games Insider, where publishers Ignacy Trzewiczek, president of Portal Games, and Stephen Buonocore, president of Stronghold Games, discuss the hobby board game industry from the inside, providing you with news, advice, and a look behind the curtain into both of their companies. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Ignacy and Stephen.
Hello, Ignacy Trzewiczek, Portal Games.
And this is Stephen Buonocore of Stronghold Games and Indie Game Studios. It's episode 124. We're recording this on November 7th, 2019. Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. But how did Tom Vasel allow this to happen? The world may never know. Ignacy, how you doing? This is another great moment here. I'm actually recording this from New Jersey, my old home state, and I am at my mother's house, spending 5 days here with her before I get to Metatopia, which I'm going to actually today. That's the big designer publisher convention in New Jersey. How you been, buddy?
I don't want to sound too Slavic, but I'm terrible. I'm sick. I'm at home. It's very bad. So let's move on.
I heard you have a cat over there right now.
Oh yeah, yes. I'm at home. I have to care for the animals. Mary has 3 dogs. She has 2 cats. And now I'm like Dr. Dolittle, trying to, this is insane.
That's great. So the cat's gonna start hitting the keyboard, and all kinds of crazy things gonna happen on your computer.
It really does all day. She tries to go to my laptop because it's hot. Yes, because it's like a laptop. And so she tries to sleep on my keyboard. This is terrible. I'm not cat person, even though I have to live with them.
Speaking of cold or hot, today here in New Jersey, it's going to get down to 24 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about -5, something like that, Celsius, I give or take. So I'm not happy. Not happy about this. This is,
Welcome home, Stephen.
That's what New Jersey's saying. Welcome home. Go back to Florida where it's nice and warm. So anyway, tell us, Ignacy, what's happening over at Portal Games right now?
As we are recording, it is not yet happening, but when the show drops, we will be 1 day from the Kickstarter for Stronghold Undead.
Awesome.
So you can imagine my whole team is preparing Kickstarter. I'm here, stuck at home, being furious at the cats, at the dogs, and at my flu, because I should be there in the office preparing the page, preparing the marketing, preparing everything about the Kickstarter campaign, and I'm here. So my team is preparing, but we will see. This is our second Kickstarter this year. I said last time, I have no clue what will happen. On one hand, we know that this is a game only for 2 players. We know this is a complex game like Twilight Struggle or Star Wars Rebellion. So this is not like super popular genre, 2-player complex game. But on the other hand, this epic, this amazing, this is a game I designed many years ago, before Robinson Crusoe, before Detective. I know that the Stronghold, the base game, has many fans. This game has a very strong reviews, very good reviews. So when we released together second edition, it was like 3 or 4 years ago. The game had a very good feedback. So now we will see if all these customers, all these people who love Stronghold, the base game, will be interested in joining this Kickstarter and making Stronghold Undead a real thing. It's epic. It's one player is playing Necromancer and doing all these spells and bringing vampires and ghosts towards the walls.
Excellent.
And doing all this dark magic stuff. And the other guy, the Defender, is desperately trying to survive, and the story is quite fun because it is the Necromancer has only 7 rounds before the dawn, before the sunlight, and his whole army will vanish in the sun, like always in these horror stories. So the Defender has a very simple goal: just stand fast, just keep fighting, just stand for the 7 rounds. And this is so thematic and so brilliant. And on one hand, this Invader feels the power, feels all these spells and everything he has, but he knows time is clicking. Time is so much precious. I have only 7 rounds to break this Defender. So I love this game. I played it many times recently while preparing this new edition, while preparing this developed new edition of the Stronghold Undead. So as I always say, it is maybe not super awesome to tell about my own project that it is awesome, but it is awesome and I don't care. I'm saying it openly. I really love this design. So we will see what will happen. As I said, with Pret-a-Porter, it was my other very legendary old game. And now we are coming back with the Stronghold Undead. It was released in 2010, so it is 9 years ago, in 1,000 print run. So only 1,000 copies were released, very high ratings on Board Game Geek, and then it disappeared and it had these ridiculous prices on eBay. So here we are with second edition. So as you are listening to this, we are a couple of hours before start of the Kickstarter, so please go to Kickstarter, please check out the website, and maybe you will consider to back this project. I'm really looking forward what will happen.
I can't wait to see it because I think I told you I think it's going to do better even than Pret-a-Porter because it's such a great game for people who like castle defense style game. I love it.
Yeah, because both of us, you and me, we are all these fans of Lord of the Rings and fantasy novels. Like this is our childhood.
Yep.
And the game that tells the story of the siege, like how cool is that? Like in the first place, yes. So yeah, I was having great time designing it, and now playing it. Like I'm reliving these moments from Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones and all these big battles around the castle. And this is mainly what's happening at Portal Games. Like as always, Zuluk tells me that we have some street days of our products, but I guess you guys know it. So just check your local game stores for our new games, Pret-a-Porter, Japanese Islands, all that jazz. But for me and for my team right now in Poland, Kickstarter and the big challenge for us.
Very, very good. Very good. So over at Stronghold Games, we are going to be going in by the time you hear this podcast drop. We will have just started the store splash for Amul, our card drafting game. That's going to run from November 15th through December 15th, about 100 stores across the USA. So if you want to see what's going on with Amul, because it had a lot of buzz out of Gen Con, please go check that out at your local game store. We're continuing our pre-orders, and we've established street dates for like everything that we've announced so far. And so the big one, of course, Terraforming Mars Turmoil. We look like we're going to hit the street date of the last day of the year. So have your New Year's Eve party ready to get Terraforming Mars Turmoil at your local game store or your online game store, where you ever get it. December 31st is the street date for that. And then in January, we're going to have Aftershock by Alan Moon and Bobby West, as well as the expansion, both street dating on January 22nd. The second edition of Second Chance, the Flip and Right game by Uwe Rosenberg, that's coming out on January 22nd as well. Egizia Shifting Sands on January 29th. Fire by Freedom and Freeze, that's the 1-2 player retro arcade style game. That's February 5th street date. Coffee Roaster, our solo game, February 12th. Fast Slots has gotten so much buzz out of Essen, which is really great. It's a pick me up and deliver me game because you're a sloth and you're too lazy to go around yourself. So the other animals will pick you up and deliver you in different places. Fast Slots with the expansion next holiday. They're both going to street date on February 12th. And, oh, you know what? This I'm going to keep for later on. I'm going to keep a special announcement. I just realized I had something I can mention later.
Nice.
And on the Kickstarters, just as everyone knows, Turmoil, it's floating its way right now across the U.S. It's already been the Kickstarter's already been fulfilled or in the progress of being fulfilled across Europe, but of course there's delays to get it over here, and then North America will have its fulfillment. So Turmoil very soon, followed fairly closely by the Aftershock and Egizia Kickstarter fulfillments, and then Dimaka. All of those before the street dates, of course, that I mentioned, because that's the fair way of doing it.
Yes.
And I'm gonna be at Metatopia. So this is the convention, just so everybody understands, this is the convention where we do all of the testing for all the great games we brought back from Essen. So that's really what's going to be happening over the next days and weeks and months over at Stronghold Games. Good times. And we have plenty more conventions to see us at too. So if you're not going to be in New Jersey, BGG Con and PAX Unplugged, of course. Why don't we move directly over to the event deck?
The event deck. Here's the latest news from the board game industry.
So, Ignacio, lots of stuff happening. Let's talk about a new award that Gamma is putting out, and it's going to be called the Rick Loomis Service Award. Now, we reported earlier this year, in the middle of the year, that Rick Loomis, a legendary person in the industry, had passed away. So they've created the Rick Loomis Service Award, which will be given out to honor the legacy of the late Gamma co-founder and longtime owner of Flying Buffalo Games, Rick Loomis, who passed away earlier this year. The new award will recognize the merit of like-minded individuals and organizations for their contributions to the game industry. The Gamma Board of Directors will choose the winners of this award from online submitted nominations, and the inaugural recipients will be revealed at the keynote luncheon during the Gamma Trade Show of 2020. So that's nice. It's going to basically, right, we're going to award people who have basically done great things within the gaming industry, and doing this in Rick's honor is kind of a nice thing.
I do agree. As our listeners know, that I like to comment with the mean comments about the Gamma actions, but this time full respect, and I absolutely agree. We said many times in the podcast earlier that these icons of the game industry made us a gamers and made us a publishers as we are. So basically, they change. We can say it very openly. They change our lives. Like, I was just teenager. I started playing games. Now I'm a publisher. So they influence my life. So if there is a chance that we can honor them and give some recognition, I'm absolutely for that. Like, I really have a huge respect for all these legends from 70s and 80s who started our industry. So, yep.
Very cool. Very cool. So just a quick one on Snakes and Lattes. We reported actually earlier this year that Snakes and Lattes was owned by a much bigger company, which I had no idea about, actually. So this is interesting that Snakes and Lattes, the board game cafe, their parent company, announced it will release financials for 2018 and 2019 by the end of the month. The company stopped filing reports in November of 2018 as it began auditing financials in a potential uplisting to a new market. Now, again, boring business stuff maybe for Ignacy, but in a similar manner to CMON, in what they're doing over in Hong Kong, they're trying to uplist themselves to a bigger exchange. Why does one do that? Because it gives you more liquidity. More people will be interested in your company and buying and selling your stock, and you could get more financing for your company as needed. So they're going to look to do the same kind of thing, try to do this uplisting to another exchange in the future. I know, Ignacy, this is boring to you, but to see companies in this industry have the ability to do this, this is like, the early stages of the tech revolution in some ways, where, these smaller companies were out there and they were getting bigger, and all of a sudden they're putting themselves on the stock market and more people are finding out about them. So I'm finding this fascinating. I don't know about you. You might think it's boring.
Yeah, I just have one comment. My cat is sleeping, so let's move on.
The cat is sleeping. There we go. Okay, so another one. The UK is opening competition inquiry into Carta Mundi's recent U.S. and Spanish acquisitions. So the United Kingdom's Competition and Markets Authority, this would be, and I'm going to make an assumption, this sounds like the Federal Trade Commission in the United States, where they look at anti-competitiveness of companies. So if anybody out there in the UK wants to change, correct me on that, but it sounds like that. The United Kingdom's Competitive and Markets Authority, the CMA, have opened an inquiry in advance of Carta Mundi's acquisition of the United States Playing Card Company, which also owns Spanish playing card company Napes Herculeo Fournier.
Perfect.
The Belgian. Oh, thank you. The Belgian card company announced the merger this summer and expects to close the deal this year. CMA will investigate whether the new company will result in substantial lessening of competition with the UK markets. The inquiry will have until December 9th to rule in favor of the merger or expand the investigation. So definitely that's exactly the kind of organization this is. They look to see if there are changes in the competitive nature due to an acquisition. And I assume rule that competition is being reduced too much and a monopolistic situation is occurring, then they would not permit this type of acquisition to go forward. So that's very interesting.
I don't understand one thing, and this time I'm serious. Like sometimes, of course, I do just jokes, but this is I'm quite serious. What does United Kingdom offices have to do with the merger of the Spanish, Belgium, and American company? Because it's like this.
That's a very good question, and I can't answer that because I don't know exactly how they operate. Of course, the United Kingdom is still part of the EU until a certain Brexit thing may or may not happen. Who knows? So maybe they can have some influence on this.
But this is strange, right? But it's strange. Like Belgium company is merging with United States playing company, and suddenly United Kingdom opens their eyes and say, "Hi!" Like very strange. So I guess we will follow up with after this December. Yes.
Yeah.
But for me, this is like a huge surprise. Why they are checking it? It's like this is. It looks like this is not their business. I don't know.
This is another interesting thing that maybe I shouldn't be saying now, but it's directly related to this, so I have to. I have to bring it out. This is almost a secret thing that I should say at the end of the show. But a couple of years ago, I was called. I had a voice message on the company line on my phone, and it said that this person was from the Federal Trade Commission of the United States, and they wanted to ask me some questions with regard to some mergers and acquisitions that were going on within the game industry.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting? And I called my lawyer and I said, should I call them back? He says, nothing good can happen if you call them back. So I didn't. Now, of course, if I would have been, if they would have sent me a note that I have to speak to them, of course I would have, but I didn't have to because it was just a call onto my phone. I did investigate, and I found that it really was a person because I found their name in some registry, and it really was. But so they were probably calling. I can only guess at whose mergers and acquisitions that we report on all the time. They were probably going to ask other major publishers about.
You could stop back then the whole avalanche of acquisitions. You could just make one phone call and said, no, this don't.
Maybe it's all my fault that I didn't make that phone call. And Asmodee would have said, no, that obviously would not have happened. But it was a very interesting thing that I actually got that phone call and I never did follow up on it. All right. So what else do we have here? So it's we've talked about tariffs and the trade war all the time. But guess what? Tariffs have hit Hasbro's sales and earnings. Specifically, they have shown that it's now been an issue for them because, as we've reported, some of these things have gone into the toy side of the industry, but not into our hobby games and hobby board games yet. So, Wizards of the Coast, Magic the Gathering, and Dungeons & Dragons were two bright spots in Hasbro's Q3 earnings, an otherwise tough quarter with sales and earnings both hit by actual and threatened tariffs on goods from China, the company reported. Hasbro Gaming, which does not include franchise brands Monopoly and Magic the Gathering, was down 17% year over year, with some, quote, off-the-board, unquote, game brands such as Bop It falling subject to the List 3 25% tariffs enacted during the period. So Hasbro has seen an issue, and remember, this is such a big company that it makes Asmodee look like the smallest of small. They're such a huge company, but they are showing problems themselves because of the trade war and the tariffs that have been levied upon them. Now, recently, things have sounded like they're getting better again between the United States and China, and maybe we're going to see an end to the trade war. But at the moment, we are expecting to see tariffs hit, including our category, on December 15th, which is, as of this recording, only about 5 weeks away. So hopefully this is going to change. A very interesting situation.
Yes, and from my perspective, like on one hand, as we mentioned many times, Hasbro is a completely different player than we are. but it is coming also to us. Like these tariffs, if they inflict such a big player, the smaller companies like us, or especially the creators for the Kickstarter, the indie developers, they will have to pay these tariffs, and it will change the industry. So we will probably report a lot about the tariffs and changes in the industry in upcoming months, and it is not good.
Yeah. So on the topic of Hasbro, which owns Wizards of the Coast, a hobby card company, Wizards of the Coast makes an acquisition. In what looks like an acquire move, Wizards of the Coast has acquired Montreal-based digital games developer Took Games, the company's announced. WotC spoke highly of the team in the announcement. Quote, in Took, we believe we have found a unique partner that pairs the nimbleness of an indie studio with the veteran leadership and scale required to deliver complex AAA games for our largest franchises, WotC VP of Digital Publishing David Schwartz said. Took is already involved in development of games based on Dungeons & Dragons, which will continue. WotC CEO Chris Cox pointed out the company's expanding strategy of paired tabletop and digital games. Quote, our unique approach in connecting fans around the tabletop as well as through our expanding portfolio of digital games is refining what it means to be a games company, unquote. So more interesting pairing of physical with digital going on here, as well as just this Wizards of the Coast being a very large collectible card company. Basically, they are expanding into more and more of the digital space, which is just very interesting for everybody.
Yeah, we can see us playing Magic on Switch and playing Dungeons & Dragons on Switch. It's coming. What Asmodee Digital is doing is amazing with all these Terraforming Mars and Gloomhaven and etc. And Dungeons & Dragons is so huge brand these past few years. The new edition of Dungeons & Dragons just all over the place. Everybody's playing. Stranger Things, of course, helped. So yes, we will see, as they say in the press announcement, AAA. So we are talking about the big games based in the world of Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering. I will play them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. I'm a huge D&D fan. Wish I was in a campaign. I recently made a NPC appearance on an online game, which is dropping very soon for the Incorrigible Party. Big shout out to those guys who had me on. It was a lot of fun. Monopoly live action in the UK. So an immersive live action Monopoly experience is going to open in London in 2020. Wow, this is like our Hasbro show. So we have the Asmodee show. This is like our Hasbro show this time. Hasbro has partnered with Celador Worldwide to develop a 75-minute immersive theater experience to open in 2020 at an undisclosed London location, featuring team challenges where players move along a Monopoly board and buy property. Celador CEO David Hutchinson said the company has been working with Hasbro for over a year, developing the experiential concept for the Monopoly brand. Celador is a worldwide theater company based in London and founded in 2009. Quote, trends in our sector are moving in a very exciting direction, with demand from a new generation of theater goers looking to experience live theater differently and to be immersed in a world of the narrative in a different way, unquote, Hutchinson said. Quote, I couldn't think of a better organization to partner with in this growing market than the company who have brought together family and friends for decades to play some of their iconic games, unquote. Hasbro and Celador plan to roll out more consumer experiences over the next few years and beyond, utilizing the wider Hasbro brand portfolio. Hey, so that could also mean Wizards of the Coast stuff then, in that case, right? So that could be things like D&D and cooler things than Monopoly. So this is an interesting thing. People in London and the UK have a shot at seeing something very, very different and interesting regarding the gaming space.
This is the moment I can finally be mean to Hasbro. Like live action role playing with Monopoly, buying properties. No, please, no.
You don't like it, huh?
No, I don't think I want to play Monopoly as a live action game. But of course, we see, because we already reported about the theme parks. Like basically, the board games try to attract everybody in new ways. And we are talking about the video games. We are talking about theme parks. Here we are talking about the live action games. So of course, the direction is very good. I just would like Hasbro to hire some new developers to get better games, because the ideas are cool. Just the Monopoly is bad.
Monopoly, not particularly good. All right, let's go over to our strategy and tactics section.
Strategy and tactics. Some advice for you from Board Games Insider.
All right, strategy and tactics, where you guys ask us some questions. Please post those, of course, in the guild on Board Game Geek. And we have Alex McIntosh, who's Itchy Wombar. I love people's icons and their names on Board Game Geek. I've been listening to the podcast since episode 48 and thoroughly enjoy the insight you provide to the industry and both of your companies. I was wondering, with the rise of game design courses that are on offer now, are you finding more and more designers and game developers coming from a background of being formally educated in game design? It seems a lot of the well-known board game designers initially had a background in things not immediately associated with gaming, such as math, engineering, teaching, journalism, before making a jump into board game design. What are your thoughts on this, and do you think it will impact the types of games we see in 5 to 10 years? Ignacy, as a game designer yourself, what do you think about this?
Yeah, we have in Poland, we have colleges that have these courses that you are trying to become a developer or designer. And on one hand, I'm very skeptical, because it is hard for me to understand and believe that there will be like 50 people in the class, and all 50 people will be changed into Rainer Knizia after 5 years. But on the other hand, I can clearly see that out of these 50 students, there'll be 5 or 6 people who really have a talent, and with the help during the course, with the help of the teacher, they will learn how to not make the mistakes I did when I was just self-educating myself. So on one hand, I'm very skeptical when I see the whole class of people who want to become another Bruno Catala. On the other hand, I do believe it is good direction, it is interesting, and maybe indeed we will see in the upcoming years, when these people will finish these colleges, that they will have this paper that they are official developer or official designer. We will see. At this point, I'm very curious what will happen. I was invited in Poland here to make some speeches and some seminars in these colleges. We will see. I'm skeptical, but at the same time, I see there is something interesting here happening.
Right. So yeah, to answer the question from my perspective, I don't think I've seen anything different happening with either the formal educational process or there's been a lot of game design conferences also that are going on. In fact, there's one going on right before BGG Con at the same hotel in Dallas.
It's done by Jeff, right?
Jeff Engelstein and Tim Fowlers. Tim Fowers, that's his name. And the more of this happens, the better, because we're simply putting more knowledge out for people to utilize to create better designs. Because everybody believes that they're a game designer. But sadly, without a little more knowledge, you're probably not. And why certain things work and why certain things don't work. So all of this together, I think 5 and 10 years down the road, we're going to see more innovative things happening in game design, because people are sharing ideas more. And when you share ideas, the collective brain power becomes higher, becomes greater as we work together. And I want to give a huge shout out to Jeff Engelstein and on the game book that he just put out with Isaac Shalev, Board Game Mechanics. I forgot the name of it. I apologize for that too. But this book is a huge collection of all of the mechanics essentially that have ever been used in game design. And it is literally like a textbook. In fact, it's probably going to be used in coursework in the future. So if you are a game designer, it's a book that you absolutely should have. And while I state that, the game you should have is 504, which actually shows you how game mechanics are melded together. And that's our game by Freedom and Freeze. I think those two things could teach you more about game design than just exploring the space yourself could do in years and years. Moving right along, Mark P., who's Meeper on Board Game Geek. I've been listening to the podcast since the very beginning. I probably missed a few episodes here or there, but I've listened to most of them. The length is ideal for me, and I always find discussions interesting. I've come up with multiple questions, and I add them one post at a time, but I've collected them all here. So here we go. Mark is going to get a few questions out of us, I think. Number one, I have seen games available in English at Essen Spiel that take a full year before they become available in the US. Since they have already been translated and published in English, what are the things going on behind the scenes that cause these long delays? Is it mostly a negotiation for regional distribution? Yes. What are the major bottlenecks and impediments for a European publisher to get games distributed in the US? So I'll take this one first because this is obviously something that Stronghold Games has done quite a bit for many years. During the Spiel at Essen, we aggressively go and speak to many of the small European publishers, and we negotiate licenses for games. Now, just because a game is released there in English doesn't mean that we want to pick it up. But if a game, after we test it, which is what we're going to be doing this week at Metatopia in New Jersey, after we test it and after we like it, we will then go and discuss what the licensing would be like. That's just sort of step one. We bring it back, we test it, we start talking about it, but there's plenty of issues that occur there. The licensing fees are too high, the cost of production's too high. There are many reasons why a game may not make it under our catalog, but it might go to somebody else's as well. So you've got it right there, Mark. It has to do with getting the rights to do the game under the right circumstances. Ignacy, you do similar things for the Polish market, right?
Yeah, but even if I can remember Robinson Crusoe, when I was small publisher Portal Games from Poland, and we signed with Zeman Games, with Zev, for American edition, reprinting the game is 8 weeks. So from start you have 2 months delay. Bringing it from China to America, another 8 weeks. So you have another 2 months. So we are talking about the 4 months if the contract was signed during the Essen, if the machine started 2 days after Essen. So you are already having this 4 months of delay. And of course, for example, for my games, when I was a small independent publisher, both cases for Stronghold, signed with Valet Games, and Robinson Crusoe with Zeman Games, their developers in America, they were rephrasing some phrases because I was not native speaker. They were fixing the rulebook, they were changing some of the components, they were trying to make this product better because they were signing with a smaller independent publisher like Portal Games this 10 years ago. So additional 1 to 3 months, and then here we are. Yes, Robinson Crusoe was released almost a year after its pre-release at Essen, because at Essen it was just my small print run with my awesome English, you can imagine. And then Zev had to take it and rewrite and edit and fix, and then send to print in China. And that's why a year later, American edition was released. So yes, everything takes time, and these printing games, it takes months.
Yeah, it's a big to-do. Many steps. So Mark's second question, he asks, how much does your day job of designing and evaluating and publishing games affect your enjoyment of playing other publishers' games for fun? Do you find yourself looking at games from a designer, publisher perspective instead of a player perspective? Do flaws bother you more? Yes, and yes. Yes, I'm the first thing I do every time I sit down, I'm evaluating the game and how it would have happened under a Stronghold or an Indie Boards and Cards catalog. I'm always, it's in the back of your head. I mean, I do it. I don't know, Ignacy, you do the same thing?
I'm, as you guys know, I'm ridiculously cocky. So each time I play a game, I can immediately see how it would be better if I could chance to develop it. Yes, I'm this complaining person. I'm trying to be not very vocal about this, but when I play with my friends from Portal Games offices or with my Mary, I can be very vocal, and I'm complaining, this should be better, I can do it better, and this is me, it is terrible, you should not play with me board games. But I cannot look at the game different than, it could be fixed. Until there is, of course, until this moment when the game is absolutely amazing, Lewis and Clark, for example, and I love it, and I'm speechless, I cannot complain, and everybody's surprised.
Yeah, I never I don't complain unless a game is really not good, and then I still don't complain publicly, of course. I don't complain about the games heavily, but I'll say things like, oh, they could have done this, or it's
Yep,
sort of
yep,
mostly in my
yep.
head, or if I'm within my very close circle, it said like, oh, I wonder why they did this. They should have done it this way. But yeah, it definitely takes a toll on the way that you view a game because, well, it's our job now, right, to do that. If somebody had given us a prototype that was presented a certain way, we would kind of break it up and say like, oh, no, we can't do that. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. So yes, the answer is yes in all those things. So Mark's third question,
Third and the last.
third, last, and then we'll move on. Being in the publishing business, you're exposed to hundreds of new games each year, and you could probably have whatever games you want. Own, I guess, whatever games you want. When you are playing games for fun as opposed to business, do the games come from your personal collection, from friends' collections, or some other source? How many games do you have in your personal game collections? What does it take for a game to be added to your personal game collection? How frequently do games get added to or culled from your personal game collection? And do you keep copies of all games you've published? Go ahead, Ignacy.
First of all, Mark is cheating because it was not third question, it was third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh question.
Mark, you shouldn't be cheating. It's not good.
As for my collection, I have no clue how many games I have in my collection because it is always moving. I have some games in the office, I have some games in the at home. I have a special room for my after hours collection games to play with my friends in the office. So I have no clue how many games I have, and I will never know. It is always moving. Some games are added, some are removed, etc., etc. As for how I get games, of course, and we mentioned it many times in the podcast, this amazing tradition during the big shows that publishers exchange gifts, and gifts, by gifts we mean games. So of course there's a lot of trading in the halls, and it is a part of the fun during these big shows that we as a friends exchange our new products because we are proud of these products. We love to share our products with our friends from different publishers. So from each show, of course, we bring a ton of games that we can play test. And yet, of course, because we are crazy, sometimes we just regularly go to a regular game store and we just we buy games. It happens.
Absolutely.
My recent purchase was Star Wars Outer Rim because I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, and because it is published by Asmodee Poland, which is my big arch enemy in Poland. So they are not trading games with me because we are shooting each other. So I had to buy this game. So yes, we are buying games, we are trading games. We have games all over the place, and it's a part of the fun of being in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Though I don't remember you giving me any games in Essen. I just want to make.
I give them to you, and Paul is stealing them from you. So
oh, Paul,
with Paul, yeah.
You gave it to Paul. That's great. So just in the first part of the question, like where do games come from that we play? It's everything. Mine back my friends' collections. I go see Tom Vassell. He's always pulling stuff off his shelf. So it could be anything. How many games in my collection? No idea. It's 5 Kallax 5x5 shelves plus things sitting on top of those. I posted them on Facebook what my collection looks like. It's not going to get any bigger than it is now. So I'll be culling some stuff. I don't make a determination on when I do it, but I'll be getting rid of some stuff, giving it to Goodwill and things like that. Last time I did check, it was around 1,000 games, but give or take. And yes, I keep a copy absolutely of everything that I publish because it's a matter of pride. Put it there, front and center in the game collection, and I definitely purchase games. Sure, we get games from our friends like Ignacy and Zev and things like that. But I purchase games at friendly local game stores whenever I visit. Basically, my recent purchases were the biggest of the big games. I purchased Gloomhaven, Star Wars Rebellion, and Lord of the Rings: Journeys in Middle Earth. I was at Cool Stuff, and they literally had to put it in 3 different huge Cool Stuff bags because those games are so big. And then I dragged them out to my car because it was so heavy. That's what we do.
I like that you said that how many games you have? About 5 Kallaxes. This is like a new measurement in the industry.
5x5 Kallax shelves. So those are the big Kallax shelves. So, and they're completely 100% full. Like I squeeze little games in now and then. I got to go through a big culling just to make them look better and things like that. But that's the extent of my collection. I'm not getting any bigger than that. All right, let's go over to our new segment called Play Testing.
Play Testing, where Ignacy and Steven question you.
All right, so in our new segment, Ignacy likes to come up with our questions for this. Last week I came up with one, but Ignacy, what do you have for this week in our We Question You section, right?
Believe it or not, my question for today was a question that basically we already answered, so this is like a quite coincidence, but my question was for you and for our fans, how we buy the games. How do you buy the games? If you buy the games at conventions, do you want to buy them waiting for the sale in the online stores? Are you waiting for the street date and then you're buying this very first date when this street date is important? Like, you prefer to wait for the reviews? Like, what is your purchase behavior, I would say?
Yeah.
And how we actually buy the games? We would like to know. I can say that I'm the person who buys I see something super awesome and I don't wait, I just click and I buy. I'm very easy to convince to buy a game, and then of course I complain and I am whining, but basically for me it's super easy. It looks awesome, it has a designer that I love, I'm just buying immediately.
Yeah, so if you look at the last 3 games that I just mentioned I purchased, obviously Lord of the Rings. I'm the biggest Tolkien nerd on the planet. I buy everything Lord of the Rings that's good. Star Wars Rebellion, of course, it's the best of the Star Wars games, at least, you know, in my opinion, from what I've seen and played. And of course, Gloomhaven had to have it, #1 ranked game. So that's why I bought those particular ones. If I want it, I go out and get it. I don't wait for hype. Sometimes things that people don't like, I'm gonna like. So I'll just go out and get it. So, but it's really interesting to hear from you guys out there and post this. Ignacio put a thread out in our guild on Board Game Geek. So post, what do you do? What is your motivation? When do you go out and get a new game? Is it based on hype? Do you buy them all? Didn't you tell me, Ignacy, that somebody you know goes out and they only buy games at Essen, right? When they're in Essen, they buy all their games for the year.
Yes, I forgot to mention it because the whole question was from my discussion with Basia. She's our fan, and she told me that she's buying games mostly, almost only during the Essen, and during the Essen she bought like 50 new games, and she has the stock for the upcoming months, and she will not buy games in December, January, March, whatever. Like, she's getting absolutely crazy and insane during the Essen show. She's enjoying this show tremendously, and then she comes down and takes her time to buy new games.
Very, very cool. Let's now go to the final scoring.
Final scoring. Here's how you can stay in touch with Ignacy and Steven.
Thank you all for listening to the podcast. We really appreciate it. Please tell your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts. To ask Ignacy and Steven questions for our strategy and tactics segment, post them in the correct form on the Board Game Geek Guild. And of course, now with the playtesting segment, go check that guild out and you can tell us what you think about the question of the week that Ignacy and I pose. We have a Facebook page just for the podcast. It's called Board Games Insider, of course, and the companies have their own Facebook, /Stronghold Games and /Portal Publishing. The company website, strongholdgames.com, portalgames.pl, and portalgamesus.com. Please go there, sign up for the newsletters, and you'll get up-to-the-minute information on Stronghold Games, Indie Game Studios, and Portal Games as well. On social media, if you want to talk directly to Steven and Ignacy, Twitter is the greatest way, @Stronghold Games and @ChevyCheck. We do the answering up there all the time. Instagram, same thing. And we both have YouTube channels as well. Hope to see you at an upcoming convention. This week is Metatopia. Then I'm going to be at BGG-Con, and then I'm at PAX Unplugged. You can't see Ignacy until like next year sometime, I don't think. Oh, PortalCon is coming up in January, right?
Yes, it's gonna be big.
Gonna be big.
But it's January. But this is. Let me just mention, we already have confirmation from a couple of gamers and fans from Europe. So consider, check the flights to Poland. If you want some directions, contact us, because we will have like English room as well for players who speak English. So France, Germany, you are welcome in PortalCon.
Excellent. That would be really cool. Please share your love for Board Games Insider. And of course, if you have your own podcast and you want it edited professionally, Matthew Jude from This Game is Broken podcast will do that for you. You can email him at thisgameisbrokenpodcast@gmail.com. Ignacy, this is the final part of the show where we say something secret. I got something secret that I mentioned before, and I brought it back down here. May I say it?
Yes, go for it.
We signed already. It was an Essen release. It did very well. It was in the top 15 hotness or something like that on the Essen BGG hotness. We signed Luna Nova earlier this year, and we're bringing it out as a first quarter 2020 release. This is with our partner Edition Spielwiese in Germany. It's Nova Luna. I keep saying Luna Nova. It's Nova Luna, and that's going to be a March 2020 release. So I hope you guys will check that out once it comes out. And that is an Uwe Rosenberg game. I want to mention that as well.
Very good. Congratulations.
All right. Everybody, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you in a week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We have to finish because my dogs start to making a noise. So thank you for listening. See you next week. Check out my Kickstarter, Stronghold Undead. Bye, bye, bye.
Ignacy hates cats like Tom Vassar. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Board Games Insider with Ignacy Cevicek and Stephen Buonocore. Board Games Insider has been made possible by you, our listeners and hobby board game enthusiasts. Ignacy and Stephen thank you greatly for your support of their companies and the hobby board game industry. Follow both Portal Games and Stronghold Games on Twitter, like both companies on Facebook, and sign up for their newsletters on portalgames.pl and strongholdgames.com. Please join us next time on Board Games Insider.
You're listening to the Dice Tower Network, the home of smart people, insightful board gaming commentary, and Ignacy Cevicek. Find out more at dicetowernetwork.com.